and around above you. I mean, that seems like a stupid idea. Why would you want to throw the jet ski above your head? But for some reason we all do. I would suggest you start with your feet in the footholds. I don't really ever flip with my feet in the footholds just in 2 footholds anymore. I almost always have 1 foot forward, except when I'm doing variations, then we just have 1 foot in the back. However, when you have both feet in the footholds, I think you'll have a little more leverage over the ski. You'll be able to initiate your rotation a little bit harder. Our goal in the beginning is just to make the boat flip around. Now, I don't want you to go bonsai super huge and try to do a 30-foot flip your first time. You don't need to do that. What you need for your first flips is a good solid wave. I would say, make sure the wave is chest high or bigger. The reason being, you don't want to learn to flip on really small waves, because small waves means shallow water. So here's what we're going to do. We're not going to go fast for our first one. It's going to be more about timing and then looking, committing, and pulling. So for your first flips especially, you're going to want to hit the wave definitely later than you want to, and it's probably going to scare you. You're going to have to hit it so late it scares you. But we're going to roll up into the wave, going kind of slow, just bop, 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 bop. And I'm not going to pull really hard here, because if I pull really hard here, I'm going to do a backflip into the window. And that wouldn't be very professional. Now, some people will say that you should do a little pre-hop to get the nose going. I don't think you should do that for the first ones. We want to make this simple. We want to make this easy. We want to be hitting the wave so that we will be able to drive the boat straight up in the air. So we want to drive the boat up a vertical section on the wave. Approach the wave, wave standing up. It's vertical. We're going to pull full throttle, okay? There's no point in being tentative with the throttle at this point, because the throttle is what's going to give you the trajectory to get up and around on your flip. We pull full throttle. When we pull, we don't want to just sit down. We want to pull back, but that act of pulling back is going to cause us to sit down. When you pull back and sit down, I want you to look back, and the first thing I want you to see is the beach. I want that to be the very first thing you see, because if you're taking off, going straight up a wave, and you sit back and you look as far back as you can, you're going to be going straight up. Your head should be able to see the beach. We take off, we see the beach. Then what I want you to do is pull the handlebars towards you. Oh, almost backflip right there. So I want you to pull the handlebars towards you and extend your legs to help kick the boat around. If you take off looking at the beach, and the next thing you see is the water, and you're pulling hard, you're going to rotate around. Now, what's going to happen is the first flip you do, you're going to crash. You're going to land on your head. And when you land on your head, you're going to go, oh, wow, like I didn't even die. That wasn't bad. It's no problem. And then after you get the first one out of the way, I want you to land your second one. It'll be fine. No problem. Just give it a go.
I have something else for the back loop. For the and when I do higher back loops, I will suggest to do 1 foot forward and only one in the foothold in the back will help you to land a little bit softer. I got this feeling when I have 1 foot forward and the other one in the back, I can take the landing easier than if I have both feet in my footholds.
Now that you know how to do the back loop, let's talk to Tiago Guidance and figure out how he does it.
The backflip, I think it's the easier trick to do. You just need to have balls. Need to get the best wave, the perfect one. But it's very easy, very easy. You don't need to pull the ski, you don't need to push, you don't need to make nothing. Just get a good wave and the ski goes perfect.
You've gotten a good perspective from a few different guys on how to do backflips. One more guy would be really important to hear from is Darren Anderson. Darren does them bigger and I would say badder than anybody else. Now let's hear from Darren and see how he does it.
The backflip's a lot different because a barrel roll you can really kind of keep your spin in contest, and you can open up, spread out, slow yourself down. Backflip's a little different. You're kind of committed once you leave that wave. So it's as far as how much throttle versus the peak height of the wave. That's kind of all the things that are coming into play. And when you're going that big, you need to know you got to hit that thing pretty early and hit it hard and really get your rotation, because you don't have that lip when you hit them early to send you around. But if you hit them late and you go that big, it's all about the flatlanders, and that's where the that's no good at all. The safest way I've came up with is just trying to hold on to the bars, but just stepping off, feet to the side, saving your legs. However, that is unless you're in competition, because you gotta try to hold on to that baby if you're riding for the gold. So then it all comes about pre-training. You gotta work your legs out. You gotta have heavy ankle strength and get those things built up, because that's exactly where you're gonna take the impact. That, your back, everything. Squats, 100 squats a day, something like that. You gotta build those muscles up to be able to take that kind of impact. More or less, it's like jumping off the 3 stories onto concrete.
Now we're comfortable with flipping. We've done a few of them. Personally, I like to do regular big flips with the front foot forward and the foot strap. When I do a flip with the foot and the foot strap, I feel like I have more control over the rotation. After you've got over the initial learning stage, you can now flip the boat. You're pretty comfortable. You want to go bigger. The most important thing is controlling your rotation. Pretty much everybody has their own way of controlling the rotation. I'll give you a little bit of my perspective on it and how I do it. Hopefully you guys can figure out what works for you. On a typical big flip, I'm gonna have foot in the rear hold, front foot in the strap. You never hit the wave exactly the same way twice. Every wave is different. You always come into it with a little different speed. Your timing's gonna be a little bit different. So it's very, very important that you learn how to adjust for all these different factors, because ultimately our goal is to land the boat nose first. And we don't want to be so nose first that we're gonna drive it straight down. Ideally, we want just a little bit of angle on it. We're gonna have a really smooth landing. It's gonna allow you to ride out nice and clean and with no broken parts on your body or boat. So that's our goal. Now, having that said, for bigger flips, my goal is to drive the boat straight up in the air. What I'm trying to do, essentially, is take the boat and drive it straight up to its apex. So I'm not concerned with flipping. At this point, we know how to flip. We're comfortable bringing the boat around. I want to drive it as high as I can. So, foot in the holds. We're driving the boat straight up and off the lip, and then once we get to about the apex of the jump, then I'm gonna pull the bars into my waist, kick out, and finish the rotation. Now, if we've messed up our timing a little bit and we're rotating too fast, you can still slow the rotation down by pushing forward on the bars and kind of elongating your body. If we haven't initiated our rotation hard enough and we've pulled in the air and we still haven't made it around fully, we have another time right before we land where you can pull again. So there are 3 separate times when you're gonna be able to pull and really have an effect on your rotation. Initially off the lip, when you're in the air, getting close to your apex, and then as you approach the water. So let's say we're headed down and this is maybe a flip that we've done on a smaller wave and it's shallow and we're coming up a little bit short. You always have the ability to just yank quickly on the bars one last time to help the boat just kind of finish the rotation. Just quick summary, the most important thing to keep in mind when we're doing bigger flips is controlling our rotation. If you land flat, that is the absolute, well, it's probably the most dangerous thing that can happen in free riding is flat landing the backflip. We want to avoid that at all costs. I control my rotation by waiting to pull on big flips until I'm in the air. Same thing when I do flips with variations in them. I just want to drive the boat up first, that's my primary goal, and then I'm going to worry about pulling it around once I'm in the air. If we pull a little too hard, we're over rotating, You can always push forward again on the bars, and that will stall your rotation out a little bit. So give you a little more time to slow it down, make sure you are landing nose first. And then on the other end of the spectrum, if we're coming up a little short, you can still give a jerk at the end to just get that little extra bit of rotation. So.
I'm gonna hide this tape while I'm finished. None of us make it. At least there'll be some kind of record.
When learning flips, it's really, really critical that you hang on to the boat. You're gonna want to throw it away, but the problem is when you're learning flips, you're not comfortable with flipping yet. Obviously, you're just learning. When you're upside down with the boat, sometimes if the flip's not going well, you have a tendency to want to throw it away. The problem is it's about the most dangerous thing you can do, because if you land upside down with the ski, it's not a big deal. You're going to impact the water, the boat's going to push you under. You're fine. The danger comes when you throw the boat away and you land and the boat lands on you. So we want to avoid that. Beginning flippers, hang on to the boat, ride it in. It's not fun, but it's better than throwing it away and having the boat hit you. Now, once you get very comfortable doing flips and you're at the point where you know what's going on when you're upside down, then it's fine. If you want to throw the boat, you're comfortable with it, you can get away from it. Oftentimes, if I do something dumb like I did in this contest, and I do a flip and I try to do a flip in really shallow water, and I see the boat's not coming around, you can kick it around at the last minute and throw it away. But save that for a time when you're really comfortable flipping and you just don't want to break the nose off your boat again. So look at you. Now you're all expert. You're doing backflips, you're doing barrel roll variations, you got this whole bag of tricks. It's time to start doing backflip variations. There are several backflip variations that don't really slow your rotation down that much. So we're going to start with those. They're pretty easy. The first one that I would recommend you try, especially if you're comfortable doing one-footed rolls, is just purely a one-footed backflip. And we're going to stick the foot straight out the back for that. For me personally, I like to take my right foot out when I do backflip variations. Whichever you're more comfortable doing, feel free to do that. So we're locked in really well. We're doing a backflip. The easiest one is just straight one-legged flip. Take one leg, stick it right out the back. It doesn't really slow your rotation down. You still pull the same way you would for a normal flip. Just leave the leg out there. You know, people have different techniques. Some people poke it straight out, whatever. I just kind of let it go. You'll pull it around. You can land with it out. It's not going to be a problem, especially if you're landing nose first. It's nice to have it back, land clean right away. If you don't get it back, not the end of the world. You'd be fine. So you got the one leg out the back down. You're comfortable with that. Let's take a handoff. Now, when you take a handoff, it's going to slow you down a little bit. But again, it's not a big deal. And it's good to start with these variations because pretty soon we're going to be taking one hand and one foot off. We're going to plan to take a hand off. So what we're going to do is we're going to start the rotation a little bit harder than we normally would. Okay? So we start to rotate a little bit harder and then throw the hand off. I don't care. Put it around your back, wipe your butt, do a little salute to the crowd, grab your balls, shake them around. Listen, the one-handed backflip, take your hand off, flop it around, do whatever you want. Listen, it's your trick. It's not my trick. So doing one-handed backflip, no big deal. Regular backflip, throw the hand off. At first, for whatever reason, it's really hard to make your brain tell your hand to come off. So the first couple times you try it, if your hand doesn't come off, it's alright. Just keep going for it. Pretty soon you'll be doing them like Gary Darren.
So maybe when I start this concern, I'll run.
Boom. Booyah! Rock that. So at this point we're comfortable taking feet off. We're comfortable with our hand off, slowing the rotation down. Let's do the can-can back. The movement is much like the can-can barrel roll. We're going to want to have our back foot again locked in very well. Bear in mind the rotation is going to slow down more than normal, so compensate for that by pulling the flip a little harder initially. First few you do, just stick the leg out there. Once you get comfortable sticking the leg out can-can style, you can really push it around and start to twist your body. Really one thing to keep in mind with those, when you start trying the can-can flip, it's going to slow you down. So be prepared to pull harder than normal. And yeah, put that leg back in there before you land, because you don't want to land without the big side. So at this point, we're comfortable taking feet out the back, hands off. We're comfortable doing the can-can backflip. The next kind of step and the next stage in your progression as a professional freerider is going to be the Madonna flip. For the Madonna, we're going to go talk to Pierre Masson. He is 3-time world stand-up champion. In my opinion, he is the best rider in the world. He's a really innovative guy, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about how he came to develop the Madonna flip, and he's going to tell you how he does it.
I started this trick because I was getting fed up with regular flips, so I started doing the can-can. I was inspired by the FMX riders. It was one of the basic tricks of FMX. So I start with the can-can, then a big extended can-can. Then one day I decided to try to hit one hand. It became a flip, can-can one-handed. And with more practice, I was able to turn it a little bit with a big extension and to do some kind of look back in the same time. So it's a can-can, one-handed, look back, full extended. You can say that like this. We find out that it's pretty close from a skateboard tricks, which is the Madonna, and it's looking about the same. That's why we give to this trick this name. So to do it, you need a big wave, a big set. You have to pull a lot, because when you are doing these extensions, it slows down the rotation a lot. So you have to anticipate on this and to pull a lot in the very beginning. Then you go full extended. Right after the pop, you keep off your leg and your arm, look back, and you get full extended, and you come back in the tray and you land.
We got variations on variations. There's another variation that's very similar to the Madonna, and that's where we're going to do a backflip with one leg straight out the back and one hand. The reason it's similar to Madonna is the process in which you do it and you pull the boat around in the air is, at least the way I do it, is very similar. So we're going to approach this wave with our left foot fully locked in. We know we're going to do this trick. We're ready for it. We're going to hit the wave and initiate our rotation a little harder. Now, whether that's hitting the wave a step later, pulling a little harder, planning on pulling harder in the air, however you do it. For me, back foot locked in, I tend to take my hands and feet off as soon as I'm leaving the wave. The reason being, I'm not pulling when I'm coming off the top of the wave. So as we leave the lip, I'm driving it straight up. I try to take the hand and bring it back and kind of let the leg drop and go straight back. I'm still focusing on trying to drive the boat straight up into the air. What I'm going to do when we get to our apex is I'm just going to pull it around with one hand on there. You can do that just fine. It feels a little funny at first to do that, but once you get used to it, it's no big deal. What you want to try to do is leave your arm and leg off as long as possible. When you first start to do it, just take it off quick, get used to having, only one hand and one foot on the boat. But ultimately, you want to leave it off as long as possible to make it look as good as possible. And if you've done your flip correctly and you're landing nice and soft, nose first, you can leave the leg out till the very last second. You can leave the arm off until pretty much the very last second, because the entry in the water is going to be nice and smooth. Now, we come to a trick that is one of my favorite tricks to do, a nice big no-handed backflip. There's not a lot of people that do it. The first guy that I saw do it was Jill Bernier. I remember before we went to go compete in 2007, I saw Jill in 2006 at a competition in Pismo, and he was doing these just beautiful no-hand backflips. So I figured, okay, I got to figure out how to do that before we head to Europe and go try to do a year on tour. This trick, more than any other, will slow your rotation down if you don't do it correctly. Now, because of the way that I flip and I do bigger flips, it doesn't really make a big difference to me whether I'm doing just a regular big flip or a no-handed flip. The reason being, when I do a no-handed backflip, I still try to drive the boat straight up, but what I do when I pull to initiate my rotation in the air, or really just finish my rotation in the air, I yank on the bars and I pull them down kind of into my waist and I take my hands off. Now, I've already pulled. That part of my rotation is going, and I kind of hang on for the ride after that. Now, it's a little bit easier for me to do it because I have a front foot forward. I've seen Jerry Jones do no-handed backflips with feet in the footholds, and I've seen Pierre do it, but it's a different technique. The way I do it, drive the boat straight up, pull for the flip, and I guess I will pull the rotation a touch earlier than I would normally, because when you take your hands off it, it does stall it out. But pull the bars down, and early on, the easiest way to learn how to do this, the first no-handed flips you do, don't take your arms off this way, because then it winds up being a little more difficult to come back. You're rotating over your head, and it's easy to come back and miss the bars. So the way to work into the trick, you're gonna do a big flip, you pull, you get the bars kind of into your waist, and you take your arms off straight over. That way when you come back, you're just gonna hit the grips. Come straight down and you hit the grips. Sometimes when you do this, you need to be careful that you need to really pay attention to how your rotation's going. So you're going to probably require some kind of adjustment. You may, when you come back, want to yank a little bit to speed it up. You may have to slow it down, but it's not really that much different than just a normal flip. You're just doing it with no hands. Look, Ma, no hands, wee!